portion, and then we want to think about what if some of the earlier Kabbalists explain, and then how Rabbi Shneur Zalman addresses the same verse and the same issue. So we begin with the concept of course, the story of the burning bush, which is a fascinating story. But if I ask you, what was the first words Moses heard from God? Interesting question. The first words Moshe heard from God. Trivia. If you don't know, you can guess. It's not a problem. Okay, so I'll tell you. It's very surprising. You ready? Take off your shoes. Okay, it's a very strange thing to ponder. Take off your shoes. That's the first thing he hears from God. Why? Because he sees this great image, this fascinating image. He sees that there's a burning bush, and the bush is not being consumed. And Moshe says to himself, "Asura na be'ereh, let me turn and see what this fascinating, astonishing sight. How come this bush keeps burning, but it doesn't run out of fuel? In other words, it's not consumed. It doesn't burn. The fire continues, but it's not consumed. So he turns and he comes close to the place to see why is the bush burning. So then God comes to Moshe. Then God speaks to him and he says, Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha. Take your shoes off your feet. Why? Because the place, the soil on which you stand is holy soil. Okay, fine. It's very important, but it's almost like a technicality. And then he says, oh, by the way, I've seen the oppression and the suffering of the Jewish people in Egypt, and I heard their cries. So now I want to send you to them. And Moshe doesn't want to go, and you got this whole discussion. But it's a very interesting thing to ponder. First thing, take off your shoes. So, okay, it's a sign that it's a holy soil. But what is really the meaning of taking off your shoes? Why do you have to take off your shoes when you get to a holy place? So what does shoes represent? So another way to call this class is what is the Kabbalah of Shoes? Okay, if you need a title, what's the Kabbalah of Shoes? What's the mystical significance of shoes? So that's the question. So we begin our journey with just it seems that shoes don't belong in a holy place, right? God says take your shoes off. On the other hand, we find that their shoes are considered something very prominent in Judaism. In fact, there's a special blessing we say in the morning. In the morning, there are about 18 blessings that we say every morning, praising God for things like allowing us to stand up straight and walk, and many other blessings. One of the blessings we say is, blessed are you, Lord, Sha'asali kol tzarki, who made for me, who gave me all my needs. In other words, I even have luxury. Right? You thank God for necessity, but you also thank God for luxury. What's luxury? Is the fact that you wear shoes. And that's why there's twice a year where we're not allowed to wear leather shoes. That's Tish and Yom Kippur. That's the biblical commandment not to wear to cause pain. So we don't wear our shoes to cause pain. So we don't wear leather shoes. And also Tisha B'Av, the morning of the destruction of a temple, we also don't wear shoes. So those 2 days, we don't say this blessing that God gave us everything we need because we don't have something significant. What don't we have? We don't have leather shoes. So from here, you see the other side, that shoes is positive. Shoes is considered something to praise God for. But yes, shoes, yes, but not at a holy place. So what exactly is happening here? So first going to give the interpretation of the other earlier Kabbalistic sources, and then we want to go to the interpretation of Rabbi Shneur Zalman. So the early Kabbalistic sources, specifically the Shalah lived in the 16th century, and he was, 17th century, and he wrote a work of Kabbalah, and he was considered one of the books that many Hasidic ideas are based upon. So he says as follows. He says, look, what is the idea of shoes? By the way, in Judaism, when you say shoes, you mean leather shoes. Because if you're not wearing leather shoes, they didn't have the materials that we have today, synthetic leather. So a proper shoe that would really do the job of a shoe was a leather shoe. If you're going to wear a shoe out of other material, it was more like a shoe for the home. It was more like a slipper. It wasn't shoe. Today, you can get shoes that are just as good that are not real leather. But in Jewish literature, a shoe means a leather shoe. When you say you're not allowed to wear shoes on Yom Kippur, you mean you're not allowed to wear leather shoes. Other shoes you can wear, it's not really shoes. Okay, so what does it mean that a human being wears shoes? So the Kabbalah says like this, Rabbi Shalom, Rabbi Yeshayahu Horowitz, he wrote a book called Shnei Luchot HaBrit, the 2 tablets of the covenant. That's the name of his book, and an acronym is Shalah, and that's the way it is in Judaism. You're usually known by the name of your book. So if you ever write a book, choose the name carefully, because probably in 500 years, nobody's going to know your name. They're only going to call you by your book. So in Judaism, it's very common for people to know books and study books and know the books and call the books. What's the guy's name? Oh, I don't know. I know the name of the book. So he's called the Shalah. Okay, his name was Yeshayahu Horowitz, so we know. But in any case, what does he say? He says, look, what does a shoe represent? What does a leather shoe represent? So this gets to the essential question of how does the human being find his place in the universe? How do we see ourselves? And this is a raging debate that goes back many generations, thousands of years, but surprisingly is not yet settled. Because today people are reverting back to the old ideas, and they're saying that what is a human being? A human being essentially is an animal. A human being essentially is a sophisticated animal. We don't really have free choice. We can't really hold ourselves. We can't really control our impulses. We can't really be responsible for our decisions, because we're a product of our environment, and we're a product of our DNA, and we're a product of our natural character traits. And there's not much you can do to overcome and change, and therefore accept yourself and love yourself and hug yourself. Now, of course, I have no problem with hugging yourself. It's a very good idea. But I mean that the idea that we essentially are animals. We're essentially enslaved to our instincts. That is an idea that was ancient, but it's also modern. And Judaism, really all of Judaism, is a protest against this idea, because the premise of Judaism is free choice. And to accept free choice, you have to say we are distinct from the animal kingdom. We have intelligence. We have choice. We don't have to be governed by our instinct. Yes, a person is born. The verse says, Ayir pera adam yivaled. When a person is born, he's a wild donkey. Right? If you don't educate, if you don't train, if you don't learn to overcome your impulses, you're going to remain like a child. What is a child? A child is somebody who did not yet learn how to overcome their impulses. So the point here, Judaism's in some ways the most essential idea. There's no morality. There's no space for morality if you don't accept the basic premise that we are not animals. We are not subject and subject to our instincts. We could overcome our instincts. So that puts us in a class on ourselves. Now, I don't want to go into Sunday territory, but on Sunday we discussed the story of Cain and Hevel, and I never said this idea before. I'll say it here. Cain brings an offering, works the earth, and brings an offering of vegetables to God. Hevel doesn't want to work the earth. He raises cattle, and when he brings an offering to God, he brings cattle. So one interpretation is as follows. There's a tremendous philosophical debate between Cain and Hevel. What's the debate? Not should we give God an animal, or should we give God a vegetable? That's not the debate. The debate is, are we animals? If you're an animal, you can't offer to God a member of your own species. It's like human sacrifice. So Cain says, you want to offer something to God? Bring a vegetable. Yes, you're superior to the vegetable. You can bring a vegetable. You can't bring an animal. You're not superior to an animal. And Hevel says, I could bring an animal. Why? Because the animal is supposed to serve the human being. Why? The human being is superior. Why? Because he has morality. He has free choice. And therefore, the animal was created to serve the man. It doesn't mean man can abuse animals. Of course not. One of the 7 Noahide laws, if you have only 7 universal laws of Judaism, there's 613 commandments. Only 7 are universal. One of those 7 Noahide laws is not to inflict pain on animals. So we're not saying that animals don't have feelings and don't have emotions, etc. But we are saying that the best thing you can do, the job of the human is superior to the animal, and the job of the animal is to serve the human being. So when Hevel brings an offering of the sheep, it's a political statement. It's a psychological statement. It's saying we, humanity, are superior than animals. Cain rejects that. No surprise then that he goes and he kills his brother. Why? He has the instinct to. So what are you going to say? What God tells him, control your instincts. That's what we read on Sunday. Atatim sholbo, you could control your instincts. He says, I don't think so. I don't feel that I could. I don't feel that I'm anything different than a sophisticated animal, but I am, like all animals, bound by my instincts. So all I'm trying to say is this question goes back to the earliest human history and is alive and well today. Says the Shalah. Shalah says, when you're putting on a pair of shoes, what are you saying? You're saying you're superior to the other creations, even to the animal kingdom. What are you saying? Saying, I'm so powerful? No. What you're saying is this reminds you of your moral obligation because you're not an animal, because you have control of your instincts. Therefore, you have the right to wear leather shoes. If you act like an animal, take off the leather shoes, you have no right to wear the leather shoes. Okay, so we rule over the lower forms of life. Now, when you say rule, it doesn't mean we dominate. It means that we have to elevate it. We have to use everything in creation, elevate it for the purpose of serving God. Okay, but this is almost like a moral responsibility to elevate everything else in the earth. And wearing those shoes symbolizes not only that we're stronger than the animal and therefore we can slaughter it and therefore we can take its hide and make shoes. No, it means that we remind ourselves, my responsibility is to rule over the lower forms of life, which means that when I eat lunch, the lunch doesn't rule me, I rule the lunch. You have to understand, the Zohar says that time of meal is a time of war. Now, we think we come to lunch, we're going to relax. Says the Zohar, no. When you're coming to eat lunch or supper, you're not relaxing. This is a battlefield. What's the battlefield? The battlefield is between me and the piece of steak. I start eating a piece of steak. The piece of steak or the piece of food, whatever you like to eat, seeks to pull you down. Because when you eat it, what do you taste? What do you feel? You feel physical pleasure. So you say, what am I? I'm just a physical existence and I'm being pulled down by this experience. But the soul wants to elevate that energy. Make that piece of food that's on your plate, make it human. Don't become animalistic, make it human. Don't let it pull you down, you raise it up. And that's the battle. And that's the battlefield of the meal, but it's really the battlefield of life, right? If you want to talk about it in simple terms, am I enslaved to my possessions or my possession? Do I control my possessions or do they control me? A very interesting question, right? The ethics of the father says, ethics of our father say, marba nechasi, marba daga. The more possessions you have, the more worry you have, right? Sometimes I have many assets, but those assets control me. Now I'm afraid, I'm worried about them, or I can't sleep at night because I'm worried about what's going to happen with my assets. They are controlling me. My phone rings. I run to the phone. Why am I running to the phone? Because it controls me. I'm not in control. I'm not using it. It's using me. Okay, so you see that there are contemporary applications to this idea of who is controlling who. And the human being has to say, I'm the boss, I wear the leather shoes. There's a saying, who wears the pants in the house? But the real saying is, who wears the shoes in the house? In other words, who is dominating the world? Are you just another form of life, or are you the one who's supposed to be powerful? And don't let the animalistic side of yourself pull you down, but you be in charge, you rule, you lift up everything else to your level. So that's this first step in the Kabbalah of Shoes. Now we have to explain, if so, why when you come to a holy place, does God, the first thing God tells Moshe is take off your shoes. So according to the Shalah, by the way, simple interpretation is, before we get to the Kabbalah, simple interpretation is if it's holy soil, a shoe represents a separation. And if you want to connect to that holy soil, you take off the shoe to symbolize that I am connecting to the land, to the holiness of the land. That's a simple level. But the Shalah is speaking of Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is you come before God. It's no place to highlight the dominance and the power of the human species over the other forms of life. When you come before God, don't put on your shoes, which highlights we're the highest form of life and we have to elevate everything else. Because when you come before God, what do you feel? You feel like we have to elevate ourselves to God. You're focusing on what's higher than me, not on my own dominance. So I take off my shoes. It's a sign of humility. Because shoes, according to this interpretation of the Kabbalah, shoes represents the fact that we can dominate, that we can elevate, that we're superior, that we are higher. Now, again, higher doesn't mean that we just get the right to dominate. Higher means we have to be, there's a moral imperative of being the highest on the ladder of creations. The moral imperative is that what's demanded of us is not, what's demanded of animals is not demanded of us. What's demanded of animals is to follow its instinct. What's demanded of us is to transcend our instincts or elevate our instincts. So it's not just we're saying we have more rights. No, we have more responsibility. But in any case, that's the first section of our talk this morning. That's the Kabbalah of Shoes based on the Shalah. Now we're going to go to Rabbi Shneur Zalman. So I'm not looking at this parsha. What I'm looking at is Rabbi Shneur Zalman wrote the Tanya, that's the famous work. But he also he said many discourses. And today we have almost all of his discourses printed, but the first books of his discourses were printed by his grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek, and it's called Torah or Likutei Torah. And these are discourses on the Parsha. However, because so much of these books are how to develop a love to God, so the book of Likutei Torah has in the back, you have discourses about all the holidays and the 5 books of Moses. But then, in addition to the 5 books of Moses, the only other book of the Bible which is included, discourses on another book in the Bible which is included in this book, is Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. Why? Why the Song of Songs? Because the Song of Songs is the book that speaks of the love of man and woman. We discussed it in the summer, I think. And that's, of course, a metaphor between God, the love of God and the Jewish people, the passionate love between God and the Jewish people, and the ups and downs in this love story. So Rabbi Shneur Zalman, which is all about a teaching, the Hasidic movement, which is teaching about how to love God, so that's critical. So that's included in the book of Likutei Torah. Discourses on Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. Happens to be that I made a summary on the book, and I just concluded it last night, which is the Yahrzeit of Rabbi Shneur Zalman. And I wasn't going to learn this part. I wasn't going to do a summary on this part because I like the parsha. Song of Songs is not that, not that interesting, I thought. But then when I finished the rest of the book, except for the Song of Songs, I was one day sitting and flipping through the pages, and I say, I think this is the most interesting part of the book. So I had to do the summaries on that as well. We concluded it last night. So excuse me for being in the mode of Song of Songs. And that's why we turn to the Song of Songs, the book, the place where the man praises the beauty of his beloved, but he focuses on her shoes. And we're going to talk about the layers of meaning, what the simple meaning is, what the Medrash talks about that, and what Rabbi Shneur Zalman adds. And then we come full circle to what does that have to do with Moshe taking off his shoes. So just to summarize, so far we said, why do I take off my shoes? This conventional interpretation is because there's holy soil. You don't want to make a separation between you and the holy soil. Okay. Kabbalistic interpretation number 1 from the Shalah is that there's a lot more going on here. Wearing shoes is a statement and a reminder that I am different than the animals and all forms of life, that I dominate. Dominate means I have control. I can overcome my instincts. I have a moral imperative to use my free choice to refine myself and become a better person, right? The cow doesn't have to become a better cow, right? The sheep doesn't have to become a better sheep, but I have to become a better person every day. And that's because I have to refine myself. Why? Because I have the gift of the mind. I have the gift of transcending my own instincts. And because I have that gift, therefore, I have to elevate everything else in this world. And the shoes is a symbol of my moral imperative to raise up the animals. But I can only raise up the animals if I realize I am distinct and I'm not just an animal. I'm a human. I have a mind and I have that moral responsibility. So that's the first interpretation of the Shalah. So if anybody has any comments and questions so far, please share. And then we go to Rabbi Shneur Zalman on the Song of Songs. Cheers. Chaim. Okay, so the verse of Song of Songs reads as follows. I'll pull up the English translation because it's a little poetic, so I don't want to get into trouble here. Okay, mayafu, how beautiful. They translate how fair. I have no idea what fair means. I don't know if it's more beautiful than the word beautiful or less beautiful than the word beautiful, so I don't know. But mayafu, how beautiful are your steps in shoes, O daughter of nobles. The curves of your thighs are like jewels, the handiwork of a craftsman. Song of Songs, chapter 7, verse 2. So this is chapter 7 is when we don't want to get into the whole story here. What happens in the Song of Songs? First, she's ready for him, then he's not ready for her, then he's ready for her, she's not ready for him. It's not a simple romance. It's like all romances. It's not so simple. Things get complicated. But in any case, along the road, they're praising each other. And in this verse, he says, how beautiful are your steps in shoes, O daughter of nobles. He's praising her shoes. I know when I was a kid, I used to go to my grandmother, and she literally had a closet full of shoes. And I couldn't figure out why anybody would need so many shoes, a closet full of shoes. Now, literally, I'm not, but I guess that's what people need. But I guess that even the author of the Song of Songs understood that walking in shoes is so beautiful. Okay, fine. This is a metaphor for the Jewish people. This is a metaphor for the love of God and the Jewish people. So what does this mean? What does it mean? How beautiful are your steps in shoes? We're walking in shoes. What does this mean? What is this a metaphor for? So I'm going to quote a piece of Talmud. It's in the Talmud, it's in the Medrash, it's all over the place. Says the Talmud, this is a metaphor for the Jewish people walking. Where are they walking? They're walking to the pilgrimage in Jerusalem, right? We have in Judaism, there are 3 pilgrimage holidays, Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot, and you're supposed to walk to the temple. And it's even called Shalosh Regalim, 3 holidays. It's very interesting that a biblical word for holiday, there are many words because each word describes a different aspect of the holiday. But when we say Shalosh Regalim, 3 holidays, the word Regalim comes from the word Regel, almost like saying 3 feet. Why do you call a holiday feet? Because the pilgrimage to Jerusalem was on foot, right? So 3 times a year, no matter where you lived in Jerusalem, in Israel, you went and you walked up to the temple. So I'm quoting the Talmud. Says Rava taught, what is the meaning of that which is written? How beautiful are your steps and shoes, O prince's daughter. How beautiful are the feet of the Jewish people at the time when they ascend to Jerusalem for the festival. Now we understand, right? God, the man, sees his beloved walking in shoes. So he says, look, how beautiful are your steps when you come to the temple 3 times a year. Very romantic, very beautiful. So in other words, what the Song of Songs is doing, and the Hasidic movement highlights this, but one way to look at Judaism is the relationship of responsibility, what I have to do. What is religion? Religion tells you what you have to do. There are 613 commandments. So the relationship that superficially is obligation. Oh, it's Pesach, I have to clean my house. Oh, in the biblical times, it's Pesach. Not only do I have to clean my house, but I have to walk to Jerusalem, right? So a lot of Judaism was seen mistakenly as only obligation. But what the Song of Songs is doing is saying you're missing the whole point. It's not an obligation. This is a relationship. This is a romance. This is love. The people walking to the temple, God is saying, look how beautiful you are, because he senses the love of the people to God. And the obligation is only an expression of the underlying love. So that's the verse in the Song of Songs with the Talmud and the Midrashic interpretation. So it's all good. The problem is we're missing one point, and here's where the Kabbalah comes in. We're missing the point of na'al, the foot. In other words, you explained what the feet means. Mayafu פעמיך בנעלים. We explained, so the verse says, how beautiful are your feet in shoes, are your steps in shoes. So we explain what the steps are. The steps is walking to the temple. Beautiful. But why do you have to say shoes? You could have said how beautiful your steps are, O daughter of nobles. What's the shoes? So that the Talmud doesn't explain. So for here, you need the Kabbalah, and the Kabbalah explains what the shoes represent. Now, there are 2 ways to read the shoes. In other words, there are 2 ways to explain what shoes are in the Kabbalah. I don't know where to start from. In other words, there's the shoes the way they are within God and within God's creation of the worlds. and then the shoes the way they are within the soul of every human being. So I guess if you're more interested about the spiritual evolution of the worlds, we could talk about the worlds. If you're more interested about what's going on within ourselves, we could talk about that interpretation. So I think we'll start with the interpretation about what is the shoes within my spiritual life. And then maybe if we have extra time, we'll go to what shoes mean collectively. Okay, so to figure out what the shoes are, you have to figure out what the feet are. The shoes are the sort of the serve the feet. What is the feet? So if you want to look a little bit in the Torah, you will see that we have Jewish people have two names. Why do we have two names? Because our third patriarch, Jacob, had two names, Yaakov and Yisrael. What does Yaakov mean? Yaakov comes from the word heel, not heal as in H-E-A, as in healing someone who is sick, but the heel of the foot. So Yaakov's name is the heel, which is a strange name for a child. He probably needed a lot of therapy. What's your name? My name is Heel. Okay. Why are you called Heel? Because when they were born, Jacob emerged holding his brother's heel because he wanted to be born first. That's a simple story. But the simple story is strange because you're not even talking about a characteristic of himself. You're talking about him in relation to his brother. So your whole life, you're reminded that I'm just a heel. I'm chasing my brother, right? So it's just a strange name. Kabbalistically, what does Yaakov mean? What does Yaakov mean? So Yaakov is comprised of two parts. You could divide it as Yud, Akev. Yud is the letter in the Hebrew alphabet that represents wisdom. Without getting into why, it's the flash of wisdom. That's why even the way the Yud looks, it's just one dot. And if you talk about the four letters of God's name, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, Yud, the first one represents wisdom, the sphera of wisdom. So Yud is wisdom. So it's the highest part of the human soul. What is Akev? Akev is the heel. So Yaakov means how the Yud goes into the heel. What is the heel? The heel is the part of the soul that descends into the body. And if you were here on Wednesday, it relates to what we spoke about, what Vicky raised on Wednesday, the two names of God, Yaakov and Yisrael, and the lower name is invested within the body, and the higher name is the part of the soul that hovers above the person. So in other words, today they call it the conscious mind and the subconscious. So in Kabbalah, it won't be the subconscious, it would be the superconscious, what's above the conscious. So within the way the Kabbalah understands is every person, their conscious mind is too limited to experience the intensity and the holiness and the infinity of the soul. So what happens is that when in your life you have the soul hovers above you, not literally, but figuratively. It doesn't come into your consciousness. And only a little bit of your soul descends into your consciousness. But that's the heel of the soul. That's just the regel, just the foot. The final and lowest part of your soul is present in your consciousness. And what we said on Wednesday is that in Judaism, when you want to say congratulations, what do you say? Mazal tov. What does mazal tov mean? Literally, mazal means nozel, it's dripping. So what does it mean, mazal tov, it should drip? It means that the consciousness and power and infinite power from the soul that hovers above you should trickle into your consciousness and give you wisdom and give you insight and give you all the blessings that you have in your life. So that is the idea of Yisrael. Yisrael is the part of the soul that hovers above you. It's not in your conscious mind. You don't feel it. You don't sense it. If you would be a totally different person. What you would want, you would only want to be connected to God. You would have that higher form of connection to God, that higher form of awareness. But in your conscious mind, what do you have now? In other words, the soul. What part of my soul do I feel? I feel the akev, the heel, the lowest part of the soul. Okay, so now I know what the heel is. What is the shoe? So if you want to figure out what the shoe is, you have to find out what are the characteristics of shoes. So we have two characteristics of shoes. Number one, they were made, like I mentioned earlier, in the ancient world, they're made of animal hide. Take animal hide, you tan it, you work it, you perfect it, and you have leather for your shoes. That's element number one. Element number two, what's the function of shoes? Shoes allow you to reach places that you could not reach on your own. right? You don't need shoes if you are in your house. During Corona, you don't need shoes, okay? It's very sad. I went to the shoemaker the other day. It's very, very sad. The place is empty. In other words, usually he's got this whole thing, there's the whole behind the shoemaker, behind where the counter, there's just rows and rows of shoes waiting to be picked up. Nothing. There's nothing there. I've never seen that in my life. I said, what's going on? And I realized, Corona, nobody needs shoes. There's nowhere to go. What do you need shoes for, right? So if you're sitting alone, you don't need shoes. Shoes is not in your own environment. You can wear slippers. You don't need shoes. You don't need leather shoes. Shoes is could you go out there and go to distant places, to places where you yourself cannot reach. Okay, so these are the two characteristics of shoes. They're made of animal hide, and they could actually propel you forward. They can help you move to places that you cannot go on your own. Says the Kabbalah like this, Rabbi Shneur Zalman says like this: if feet is the soul, the part of the soul that is in your conscious mind, then what are the shoes? Shoes is the animal soul that covers the foot. That's why now we all know Kabbalah says, and we have the whole book about it, the Tanya, that there's two souls within the person. There's the godly soul and there's the animal soul. What's the animal soul? The godly soul is the drive to transcend. Person feels he wants to transcend and connect to something greater than self. He wants to be pulled back to his divine source. And that's the root of all the good drives that we have within ourselves. And then there's the animal soul. The animal soul is self-oriented. And it wants just to engage in the current, in the here and the now, and the pleasure of the moment. And that's the animal. Now the animal covers over the foot. You don't always feel the foot because it's covered with the animal hide, with the consciousness of the animal soul, which is focused on the self. Now, the animal hide, but what is the foot? But what is a shoe? A shoe is not the animal hide per se. A shoe is animal hide that was tanned, that was worked with. You developed it to the point that it becomes useful. Says the Kabbalah, what is our job? What do we do with the animal soul? We're not supposed to suppress the animal soul, as we always say. We're supposed to channel the energy of the animal soul to holiness, to the love of God. And we talk about this all the time, so I'll repeat it. And Rabbi Shneur Zalman repeats it on every page of the book, so I can repeat it too. The animal has much more force than the human being. That's the way it is. Who's stronger, a bull or a human being? Of course the bull is stronger. The problem is that the animal doesn't know how to direct and channel its energy to produce something productive. So the human being's job is to channel the horsepower, to channel the energy of the animal to something productive. So now I ask you within myself, who has more power? Who has more passion? Who has more passionate love? The godly soul or the animal soul? In other words, does my godly soul love God as much as my animal soul likes cotton candy or whatever else, fill in the blank? The answer is, of course not. Your godly soul is too intellectual. It understands. It doesn't have that passion, that animalistic drive and passion. The animal soul has the animalistic drive and passion for negative things. What is your job? Take the leather, take the animal hide and make it into leather, reform it, transform that to something productive. And when you do that, what's going to happen? You'll be able to walk to places you could not walk on your own, meaning the foot can't walk on its own. The foot can't get to Jerusalem on its own. But if you work with your animal hide and transform the animal, then the animal will help you propel yourself forward, give you more passion and more love to God, and will help you climb to Jerusalem. So what's happening right here is as follows. The Jewish people are coming to Jerusalem, right? We're going back to the simple interpretation of the Talmud. The verse says, how beautiful are your steps and shoes, daughter of princes. And the Talmud says, this is God saying, wow, the Jewish people are coming. How beautiful it is that the Jewish people are coming to the temple. Says the Kabbalah, what's beautiful? The animal coming along, the shoes coming along. That your godly soul loves God and wants to come to Jerusalem is not so beautiful. That's natural. Beautiful is you manage to take the animal, transform the animal into shoes that would allow you to come closer to God, intensify the love of the godly soul, and propel yourself to Jerusalem. That's the true beauty. True beauty is not the soul. True beauty is transformation of the animal soul. And that's how we come full circle. Now, when it comes to a holy place, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman explains, Yom Kippur, we don't take off our leather shoes. Why? Because Yom Kippur is not the time is a time to focus on the intimacy between God and the godly soul. It's not a time for the passion. It's not a time of refining the animal soul. The rest of the year, you refine the animal soul. So Yom Kippur is not a time for beauty. We wear plain clothing. Yom Kippur is the simplicity, connecting your own soul, your godly soul with God. So if it's a relationship between your godly soul and God, then there's no room for leather shoes. Rabbi Shneur Zalman does not say so explicitly, but I think the same thing could be said about Moshe. Moses comes to the burning bush. It's a place of intimacy between God, Moses' soul and God. There's no room for shoes. But beauty, you want beauty? Beauty, you need shoes. Because what is the most beautiful thing of the Jewish people coming to the temple is not so much that they're coming with their godly soul. It's that they're coming with their animal soul as well. That the passion of the animal soul now is directed to Jerusalem to come closer to God. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the story in short. A lot more to say, but it's a good taste. And I'm glad we got to study some holy words of Rabbi Shneur Zalman on the day of his yahrzeit. May the words penetrate and make us beautiful, not just our soul, but also our shoes. And you have to have beautiful shoes. Reminds me of a story. When I was in yeshiva, they told us a story. Okay, it's totally opposite of what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because it just fell into my mind. It's Friday. So the story is told in the yeshiva in Lubavitch. They came to, a boy comes the first time, he comes to yeshiva in Lubavitch. And Lubavitch, small town in Belarus, and the people there are involved in Hasidic philosophy. They're totally and completely removed from the from involvement in worldly matters. So a boy comes from the city, comes to Lubavitch, and it's Friday. What do you do on Friday? You polish your shoes. So he's walking around the yeshiva asking people, do you have shoe polish for Shabbos? It's a halacha, it's a code of law. You have to wear beautiful shoes on Shabbos. Now, I'm not creative enough to explain the absurdity of the scene, not absurdity, how funny it is, how it's like out of place that in Lubavitch, in the yeshiva, nobody has shoe polish. If they'd be happy if they have shoes. Nobody has shoe polish. So this kid is walking around looking for shoe polish. So one of the older students turns to him and he says, in Lubavitch, we don't come to polish the shoes. In Lubavitch, you come to polish your head, not your shoes. But of course, that's a mistake because the whole discourse here is no, polish the shoes. The head is polish your shoes. When the beauty is the animal soul. The beauty is the transformation. So that's the story in short. If anybody has any comments, questions, please share. Otherwise, everyone have a beautiful day and make sure you have a polished and beautiful Shabbos. Beautify yourself and put on beautiful shoes.
Rabbi, thank